Imagine this. In Venezuela, a single bottle of cooking oil costs more than what most people earn in an entire month. A single roll of toilet paper? That's 3 days of hard-earned wages. And here's the real gut punch. Venezuela's inflation didn't just rise, it exploded to over 1,000,000%. Let that sink in. Now here's the part no one's talking about. Economists are already whispering about a 40% chance of a recession hitting by the end of 2025. But let me tell you something. When a currency truly collapses, and I mean collapses, it's not your savings account or your 401k that's going to save you. It's the everyday items sitting in your house right now. I'm talking about 20 dirt-cheap things you can grab today for under $10, 0 cents, that could literally become more valuable than gold when the economy goes belly up. These aren't luxury items, they're survival essentials. And while everyone else is panicking, you'll be the one who saw it coming and prepared. So stick with me for the next 14 minutes. This isn't fear-mongering, it's a wake-up call. And if this video helps you even a little, hit that like button. It's not just for me. It's so more people can get this life-saving info. Let's get into it. 1. Water filters and purification tablets. Picture this. It's day 3 of a total economic collapse. The power's been out for 72 hours, and the taps have run dry. Your neighbor, Steve, the guy who used to flex his luxury car and designer watches, is now standing at your door. He's holding out a Rolex, a $20,000 0 cents Rolex, and he's begging you to trade it for just 1 bottle of clean water. Sounds like a scene from a dystopian movie, right? Wrong. This exact scenario has played out countless times in places like Venezuela, where people traded gold, jewelry, and even cars for something as basic as drinking water. Here's the cold hard truth. You can survive weeks without food, but without water, you've got 3 days, tops, before your body starts shutting down, and when the system collapses, clean water is the first thing to disappear. Don't believe me? Just look at what happened in Texas during that winter storm a few years back. Water treatment plants failed, and millions were left scrambling for something safe to drink. That was just a storm. Now imagine what happens when the entire economy crumbles. This is why water purification tablets and portable filters are absolute lifesavers. You can grab a pack of purification tablets for under $10, 0 cents at any camping store, and they can purify over 100 gallons of water. Do the math. If water costs $5, 0 cents a gallon during a crisis, and that's being generous, you're looking at a 5,000% return on investment. And let's not forget portable filters like the LifeStraw. For about $20, 0 cents, you can turn puddles, rivers, or even swimming pool water into something drinkable. During Hurricane Katrina, people were paying $50, 0 cents, for a single bottle of water. Meanwhile, those with purification tools were drinking clean water while everyone else was desperate. Here's the deal. Water scarcity isn't some far-off problem. It's happening now. California's been battling droughts for years, and climate change is only making things worse. When the taps run dry and your kids are crying because they're thirsty, that $10, 0 cents pack of tablets is going to feel like the best investment you ever made. So, don't wait. Stock up on purification tablets and filters today. Keep them in your car, your emergency kit, and even at work, because when the collapse comes, you'll be the one turning dirty water into liquid gold. 2. First aid supplies. Let me hit you with a reality check. During Venezuela's economic collapse, a simple box of bandages was selling for the equivalent of $200, 0 cents. That's right, $200, 0 cents, for something you can grab at the dollar store right now. And it gets worse. I read a story about a Venezuelan mother who had to make an impossible choice: buy antibiotics for her sick child or buy food for the weak. She couldn't afford both. In the end, she traded her wedding ring, for a bottle of amoxicillin that would have cost $20, 0 cents in normal times. Now, you might be thinking, that's Venezuela. That could never happen here. But let me remind you of something. In 2020, people were fighting over toilet paper. Fast forward to today, and supply chain disruptions are hitting medical supplies harder than ever. Basic first aid items are becoming harder to find, and when the system collapses, they'll be worth their weight in gold. Here's what you need to do. Stock up on the basics. Bandages, antiseptics, hydrogen peroxide, rubbing alcohol, iodine packets. These are the items that will save lives when the hospitals are overwhelmed and the pharmacies are closed. Pain relievers like ibuprofen, acetaminophen, and aspirin are also must-haves. And don't forget antibiotics. A $20 0-cent bottle of antibiotics could literally mean the difference between life and death in a crisis. Think about it. When someone's bleeding, when your kid has a fever, or when an infection sets in, nothing else matters. These are the moments when having a well-stocked first aid kit makes you the most valuable person in your neighborhood. And here's the kicker. You don't need to spend a fortune. For under $50, 0 cents, you can build a first aid kit that could save lives. Rotate your supplies, check expiration dates, and keep everything dry. This isn't about being a doomsday prepper. It's about being prepared for the inevitable. Trust me, when the collapse comes, you'll be glad you did. Pre-pandemic. Let's talk about something most people take for granted. Toilet paper. During the 2020 pandemic, we saw people losing their minds over Charmin. Fistfights broke out in grocery stores, and shelves were wiped clean, pun intended. But here's the thing, that wasn't even a real collapse. That was just a minor disruption. Now imagine what happens when the entire economic system goes belly up. In Venezuela, toilet paper has become a luxury item. Families are spending what little money they have just to buy a single roll. Picture this, you walk into a store, and a 4-pack of toilet paper costs the equivalent of 3 days' wages. That's not a hypothetical scenario, that's reality for millions of people right now. And when the currency becomes worthless, toilet paper becomes one of the most sought items for bartering. Why? Because it's lightweight, it doesn't expire, and everyone needs it. Let's be honest, there's no good substitute for toilet paper that people want to use long term. During a collapse, comfort items like this become incredibly valuable. They're not just about hygiene, they're about maintaining a sense of normalcy in a world that's falling apart. Here's the deal. A 24-pack of toilet paper costs you, what, $15? 0 cents? In a barter economy, that same pack could trade for a week's worth of food. Stock up now while it's cheap and readily available. Keep it dry, keep it safe, and when the time comes, you'll be sitting on a gold mine. Trust me, when people are desperate, they'll trade almost anything for basic dignity and comfort. 4. Soap and hygiene items. This one might surprise you. But during Venezuela's collapse, women were literally prostituting themselves for soap. Not money, not food, soap. Let that sink in. When was the last time you went a day without washing your hands or brushing your teeth? Now imagine going weeks or months without basic hygiene. It's not just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. Here's what happened in Venezuela. A single bar of soap was worth more than most people made in a week. And it's not just about staying clean. When you can't wash yourself, when your teeth feel grimy, when you start to smell, something inside you breaks. Your dignity disappears, and once that's gone, people make desperate choices. Fast forward to today. Supply chain disruptions are still happening, and major soap manufacturers are reporting production delays. A 12-pack of soap bars cost you what? $8, 0 cents? In a collapse, 1 bar could be worth a meal. And it's not just soap. Toothbrushes, toothpaste, shampoo. These are the items that keep us human when everything else is falling apart. Here's the kicker. These items don't expire if stored properly. For under $50, 0 cents, you can stockpile a year's worth of hygiene supplies for your family. And when the time comes, you'll realize that staying clean isn't just about health. It's about hope. It's about holding on to your humanity in a world that's lost its way. 5. Batteries. Let's talk about something most people don't think about until it's too late. Batteries. During Hurricane Katrina, people were paying $50 0 cents for a single D battery. That was in 2005. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $70 0 cents today. And here's the thing, with all the power grid attacks and cyber threats we've been seeing, batteries are becoming the new gold standard for emergency preparedness. Think about it. Your flashlight dies, your portable radio goes silent, your kid's nebulizer for asthma? Useless. All because you didn't have a $5 0 cents pack of batteries. The average American household has about 3 days' worth of battery power for essential devices. Meanwhile, the average power outage after a major disaster lasts 3 weeks. Do the math. Here's what you need to do. Stock up on the big 3, AAS, AAAs, and 9 volts. These sizes power about 80% of emergency devices. Buy quality alkaline batteries that hold their charge for up to 10 years. And don't forget rechargeable options with a solar charger. For about $30.00, you can build a battery stockpile that could save your life. When the lights go out, and I mean really go out, you don't want to be the person begging for batteries. You want to be the person who's prepared. Trust me, when the collapse comes, batteries will be worth their weight in gold. 6. Salt, the white gold that built empires. Let's talk about salt. Yes, the same stuff sitting in your kitchen right now. You probably don't think much about it, but salt has literally shaped human history. In ancient Rome, soldiers were paid in salt, which is where the word salary comes from. That's how valuable it was. Fast forward to today, and during Venezuela's economic collapse, salt became one of the most traded items on the black market. Why? Because it's not just a seasoning, it's a survival tool. Here's the deal. When grocery stores are empty, and I mean completely empty, salt becomes a lifeline. It preserves food, turning perishable meat and fish into something that can last for months. Imagine you've got a freezer full of meat, but the power's been out for days. Without salt, that food is a ticking time bomb of food poisoning. With salt, you've got a stockpile of life-saving protein. But it's not just about food preservation. Your body needs sodium to survive. Without it, your muscles stop working, your brain malfunctions, and eventually you die. It's that simple. And here's something most people don't realize. Salt is also a medical necessity. You can use it to make saline solution for cleaning wounds, gargling for sore throats, and even treating dehydration. During the Civil War, when medical supplies ran out, salt water saved countless lives. Now, let's talk numbers. A 26-ounce container of table salt costs about $2.00. That's enough to preserve food, season meals, and meet your family's sodium needs for months. Think about that. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you can stockpile one of the most essential survival items on the planet. And here's the kicker. Salt doesn't expire. Store it in a cool, dry place, and it'll last forever. So what are you waiting for? Stock up on salt now, because when the collapse comes, and people are trading their last valuables for a pinch of sodium, you'll be the one holding the real white gold. 7. Rice and beans, the ultimate survival combo. If you're serious about preparing for an economic collapse, rice and beans should be at the top of your list. Why? Because they're cheap, they last forever, and together they form a complete protein. That means they provide all the essential amino acids your body needs to survive. In other words, you could live on rice and beans for years and stay healthy. Let me break it down for you. Rice and beans are the most traded food items during any economic crisis in history. Right now, in Venezuela, people are bartering these staples for medical care, fuel, and even housing. Why? Because they're reliable, filling, and incredibly versatile. A pound of rice costs about 50 cents, and a pound of beans is around 75 cents. That's less than $2.00 for a meal that can feed a family of 4. And the best part? If stored properly, they can last for decades. Here's a story that stuck with me. During the Great Depression, a family in Oklahoma survived for 8 months on nothing but rice, beans, and vegetables from their backyard garden. They had 7 kids, no income, and no government assistance. Yet when a local doctor checked on them, they were healthier than most families in town. That's the power of rice and beans. And don't think you'll get bored eating the same thing every day. With a few spices and seasonings, you can turn rice and beans into Mexican, Indian, or Mediterranean dishes. It's not just survival food, it's adaptable, comforting, and satisfying. So, here's the plan. Stock up on rice and beans now, buy in bulk, store them in airtight containers, and keep them in a cool, dry place, because when the grocery store shelves are empty and people are trading their last possessions for a bag of food, you'll be the one who's prepared. 8. Canned foods, the no-cook lifesaver. Canned food might not sound glamorous, but in a crisis, it's a game changer. When the power goes out, and trust me, it will, you won't be able to cook that rice and beans, but you can pop open a can and eat immediately. No cooking, no preparation, no problem. Here's the thing about canned food. It lasts forever. Well, almost. There are documented cases of people eating canned food from World War II and it was still perfectly fine. That's because canned food is sealed and preserved in a way that keeps it safe to eat for decades. And during the 2008 financial crisis, canned food was one of the first things to fly off the shelves. People instinctively know it's a reliable survival option. Now let's talk about variety. Canned vegetables, fruits, meats, soups, you name it. These aren't just emergency rations. They're a way to maintain a balanced diet when fresh food is no longer an option. And here's a pro tip. Focus on high-calorie, nutrient-dense options like canned beans, tuna, and peanut butter. These will give you the energy you need to keep going when times are tough. The best part? Canned food is dirt cheap. You can stock up for less than $1.00 per can, and if you buy in bulk, you'll save even more. Store them in a cool, dry place, and you've got a food supply that could last for years. So, don't underestimate the power of canned food. It's not just a convenience, it's a lifeline. When the collapse comes, and people are fighting over the last scraps of fresh food, you'll be the one with a pantry full of ready-to-eat meals. 9. Multivitamins, the hidden health hero. Here's something most people don't think about. During an economic collapse, the biggest health threat isn't starvation, it's malnutrition. You might have enough rice and beans to keep your stomach full, but without the right nutrients, your body will start to break down. That's where multivitamins come in. In Venezuela, malnutrition became a massive problem during their economic collapse. People were eating, but they weren't getting the vitamins and minerals their bodies needed. The result? Weak immune systems, chronic fatigue, and a host of preventable illnesses. A simple bottle of multivitamins could have made all the difference. Think about it. A bottle of generic multivitamins costs about $8.00 and contains enough for a month or two. That's pennies per day to ensure you're getting the nutrients your body needs to stay healthy. And here's the kicker. Multivitamins don't expire if stored properly. Keep them in a cool, dry place, and they'll last for years. During a crisis, multivitamins become more than just a supplement. They're a survival tool. They're lightweight, easy to store, and absolutely essential when your diet is limited. And let's be real, when was the last time you saw someone turn down vitamins during tough times? So here's the move. Stock up on multivitamins now. Buy a few bottles for each member of your family and rotate them out as needed. Because when the collapse comes, and people are trading their last valuables for a bottle of vitamins, you'll be the one who's prepared. And sure, and honey, sweet survival essentials. Let's wrap this up with something sweet. Sugar and honey. You might not think of these as survival items, but trust me, they're worth their weight in gold during a crisis. In fact, sugar has been used as currency in the past, and honey? Honey's practically magic. Here's the deal with sugar. It's cheap, it's lightweight, and it's a comfort item. During the Great Depression, people traded sugar for essential services like haircuts and medical care. Why? Because when you're living on bland survival food, a little sweetness can make all the difference. It's not just about calories, it's about morale. Now, let's talk about honey. Honey is the ultimate survival food. It never goes bad. Archaeologists have found honey in Egyptian tombs that's still perfectly edible after thousands of years. Plus, it's a natural antibiotic, a wound healer, and a cough suppressant. In a crisis, honey isn't just food, it's medicine. Here's the plan. Stock up on sugar and honey now. A 5-pound bag of sugar costs about $3.00. Store them properly, and they'll last indefinitely. And when the collapse comes, and people are desperate for a little sweetness in their lives, you'll be the one holding the golden ticket. 7. Duct tape, the silver savior. Let me tell you something you probably didn't know. Duct tape is the unsung hero of survival. During Hurricane Katrina, people were trading rolls of duct tape for 2 weeks' worth of food. 2 weeks! And honestly, that wasn't a bad deal. You might think, it's just tape, how valuable can it really be? But that's where you're dead wrong. When the world goes sideways, duct tape becomes your go-to solution for just about everything. Picture this, your window shatters during a storm, and there's no one to fix it. Duct tape can seal it up. Got a leaky pipe? Duct tape. Torn clothing? Duct tape. Need to make an emergency splint for a broken arm? You guessed it. Duct tape. People have even used it to create makeshift shoes when theirs fell apart. It's not just tape, it's a survival tool that can literally save your life. And here's the kicker. With supply chain issues becoming the norm, even duct tape is getting harder to find. I went to 3 stores last week just to grab a few rolls, and the shelves were almost empty. The smart move? Stock up now while it's still cheap. A roll of duct tape costs about $3.00 today, but in a crisis you could be looking at $30.00 or more. Don't wait until it's too late. Buy it now, stash it away, and thank me later when it becomes the most valuable thing in your emergency kit. 12. Basic hand tools. Your new best friends. Let me tell you about my neighbor Mike. Great guy, but he couldn't fix a leaky faucet to save his life. When the Texas power grid went down in 2021, he was knocking on doors, begging for help with basic repairs. And here's the thing, in a collapse, the person with tools and the skills to use them becomes the most valuable person in the neighborhood. We're not talking about building a house from scratch here. A simple set of hand tools, a hammer, a screwdriver set, a utility knife, can make all the difference. These tools, which you can grab for under $30.00 at any hardware store, can fix broken locks, repair furniture, patch up leaks, and more. And let's not forget small engine repair. When people are relying on generators, chainsaws, and lawnmowers to get by, the person who can fix those becomes a king. Here's the reality. When repair services shut down or become unaffordable, tools are worth their weight in gold. A $10.00 wrench today could mean the difference between a functioning water system and a flooded house tomorrow. So, don't be like Mike. Invest in a basic toolkit now, because when the collapse comes, the person with tools isn't just surviving, they're thriving. 13. Seeds, the gift that keeps on giving. Here's a fact that might blow your mind. During economic collapses, seeds become one of the most valuable commodities. Why? Because they're not just food, they're the ability to grow more food. A single packet of seeds, which cost about $2.00, can produce enough vegetables to feed a family for months. And the best part? Those plants will produce more seeds, giving you an endless supply of food. Think about it. When grocery store shelves are empty and food prices are through the roof, the ability to grow your own food isn't just smart, it's essential. During the Great Depression, families survived by turning their backyards into gardens. And in Venezuela today, people are trading fresh vegetables for medical care, fuel, and other essentials. Imagine being the person who can trade a basket of tomatoes for a week's worth of supplies. Here's a pro tip. Focus on calorie-dense, easy-to-grow crops like potatoes, beans, and squash. Forget the fancy heirloom varieties for now. This isn't about Instagram-worthy garden photos. It's about survival. And don't underestimate the value of herbs and spices. A little basil or cilantro can turn bland survival food into something you actually want to eat. So, what are you waiting for? Stock up on seeds now. Keep them in a cool, dry place, and they'll last for years. Because when the collapse comes, and people are fighting over canned soup, you'll be the one with a garden full of fresh, life-saving food. 14. Lighters and matches, the power of fire. Fire is what separates us from the animals. It's light, heat, and the ability to cook food. And when the power grid goes down, and trust me, it will, fire becomes the difference between survival and suffering. That's why lighters and matches are some of the most valuable items you can stockpile. Here's the thing. When the lights go out and the temperature drops, people will trade almost anything for the ability to start a fire. A simple Bic lighter costs about $1.00 today, but in a crisis, it could be worth its weight in gold. And waterproof matches? Those are a game changer. They'll work in any weather, ensuring you can start a fire no matter what. Think about it. With fire, you can boil water to make it safe to drink, cook food, and stay warm. Without it, you're cold, hungry, and vulnerable. And let's not forget the psychological impact. A warm fire can provide comfort and hope in a world that's falling apart. Here's what you need to do. Stock up on lighters, matches, and fire starter cubes. They're cheap, lightweight, and easy to store. Keep them in your car, your emergency kit, and your home. Because when the collapse comes and people are desperate for warmth and light, you'll be the one who's prepared. 15. Plastic sheeting and tarps, your emergency everything. Let's talk about one of the most underrated survival items, plastic sheeting and tarps. When Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, people were literally fighting over tarps. Why? Because when your roof is damaged or you need emergency shelter, a tarp can mean the difference between staying dry and being exposed to the elements. But that's just the beginning. Plastic sheeting and tarps are incredibly versatile. You can use them to collect rainwater, protect your supplies from moisture, create a makeshift shelter, or even seal off a contaminated area. And with extreme weather becoming more common, wildfires, floods, hurricanes, you'd be crazy not to have a few tarps on hand. Here's the reality. A heavy-duty tarp costs about $15.00 today, but when disaster strikes, people will pay hundreds for the same thing. Don't be that person scrambling to find one when it's too late. Stock up now. Keep them in your garage, your car, and your emergency kit. Because when the collapse comes and people are fighting over basic shelter, you'll be the one who's ready. 16. Alcohol, the universal currency. Let's get real for a second. Alcohol has been a form of currency for centuries. During the Great Depression, my great-grandfather used to tell stories about how a single bottle of whiskey could get you a week's worth of groceries. People weren't just drinking it, they were using it to pay rent, buy medicine, and even bribe officials. Fast forward to Venezuela's collapse, and the same thing happened. Whiskey, vodka, and other spirits became more valuable than cash. A cheap bottle of vodka could buy you a month's worth of rice and beans. Let that sink in. Here's why alcohol is so valuable in a crisis. First, it's a coping mechanism. When the world is falling apart, people want something to take the edge off. Second, it's versatile. Alcohol can be used as a disinfectant for wounds, a cleaning agent, and even as fuel in some cases. Third, it doesn't expire if stored properly. A $15.00 bottle of whiskey today could be worth hundreds in a barter economy tomorrow. You don't need to stockpile the fancy stuff. Cheap vodka, whiskey, or grain alcohol will do the trick. Store it in a cool, dark place, and it'll last indefinitely. And here's a pro tip. Small bottles are better for bartering. A single large bottle might be too valuable to trade, but a few smaller ones give you more flexibility. So, stock up now, because when the collapse comes, alcohol won't just be a drink, it'll be a lifeline. 17. Coffee and tea. Liquid addiction gold. Did you know coffee is the second most traded commodity in the world, right after oil? That's how much people love their caffeine. And when an economic collapse hits, coffee addicts don't just want their fix, they need it. I've got a friend who drinks 4 cups of coffee a day. He tried to quit once, and by day 2 he had such bad headaches, he couldn't function. Now imagine that, but there's no Starbucks, no grocery store, no Amazon delivery. Coffee becomes a luxury item, and people will trade almost anything to get it. Tea is no different, especially for older generations who've been drinking it their whole lives. The beauty of coffee and tea is that they're lightweight, store for years, and are dirt cheap right now. A $5.00 bag of coffee beans or a $3.00 box of tea could easily trade for $50.00 worth of supplies when people are desperate for their caffeine fix. Here's a tip. Instant coffee might taste terrible, but it's perfect for bartering. It's lightweight, doesn't spoil, and desperate people won't care about the taste. Stock up on a mix of whole beans, ground coffee, and instant coffee. For tea, focus on black and green varieties, as they're the most popular and have the longest shelf life. When the collapse comes and people are dealing with caffeine withdrawal, you'll be the one holding the liquid gold. 18. Cigarettes, the dark truth about addiction. Let's talk about something uncomfortable. Cigarettes. Love them or hate them, they're one of the most valuable barter items in any crisis. Why? Because addiction doesn't care about your moral compass. During World War II, cigarettes were so valuable that soldiers would trade their entire rations for a single pack. Even today, in prisons, cigarettes are used as currency. When people are addicted to nicotine, they'll trade almost anything to get their fix. Here's the thing, I'm not encouraging anyone to start smoking. But if you're thinking about what to stockpile for bartering, cigarettes are a no-brainer. A carton that costs $50.00 today could easily be worth $500.00 or more when supply chains break down. They're small, lightweight, and if stored properly, they last for years. Keep them in a cool, dry place and they'll be good to go when the time comes. And let's be clear, you're not creating addicts here. You're preparing for a reality where these addictions already exist. When the collapse comes and people are desperate for a smoke, you'll be the one holding the goods. Whether you trade them for food, medicine, or other essentials, cigarettes will give you serious leverage in a barter economy. 19. Sewing supplies. When fast fashion dies. Here's a statistic that'll blow your mind. The average American throws away 80 pounds of clothing every year. But when times get tough, people stop buying new clothes and start repairing what they have. We're already seeing this trend as inflation drives up clothing prices. The problem? Most people don't have the tools or skills to fix their clothes. That's where sewing supplies come in. A basic sewing kit costs about $10.00 and includes needles, thread, buttons, and patches. It's lightweight, takes up almost no space, and solves a real problem. When your kid's jeans get a hole in the knee and there's no money for new ones, what are you going to do? You're going to find someone who can patch them up, and you'll trade valuable supplies for that service. Here's a pro tip. Stock up on a variety of thread colors, different needle sizes, buttons, and fabric glue. If you've got the space, consider adding some fabric scraps and a pair of quality scissors. These items don't expire and will be worth their weight in gold when people are trying to make their clothes last longer. In a world where fast fashion is dead, sewing supplies will be a lifeline. 20. Entertainment items, the sanity savers. Let's talk about something most preppers completely overlook: mental health. When you're stuck at home for weeks or months with no internet, no Netflix, and no smartphones, people start to lose their minds. During the Great Depression, playing cards and board games became incredibly popular. Why? Because when you've got nothing else to do and no money to spend, entertainment becomes priceless. Here's the thing, we're so dependent on digital entertainment now that most people don't even own a deck of cards anymore. So when the power goes out and boredom sets in, simple items like playing cards, dice, and board games become lifesavers. Parents in particular will trade valuable supplies for something to keep their kids occupied. Stock up on cheap entertainment items like puzzle books, paperback novels, coloring books, crayons, and even simple board games. None of this costs much, but it solves a real problem when people are bored out of their minds. A $2.00 coloring book could easily trade for $20.00 worth of goods from a desperate parent. And let's not forget about the psychological impact. In a world that's falling apart, a little fun can go a long way in keeping people sane.